Hey, how's everybody doing? So I wanted to make this video to help any new modders who are getting into the ArmaReforger tools for the first time to mod for ArmaReforger. It's a lot to take in at first. I know it's a little bit overwhelming, but I promise you it's not as hard as you may think it is. A lot of it's understanding what the workspace and workflow is going to be like when you first get in here, um, and understanding what everything does. So first off, this main screen here. This is your main interface when you first load up the Workbench. You're not going to have anything in here. It's just going to be this. So this is your quick launch. You have your world editor, your particle editor, animation, script, audio, behavior, string, and procedural. These are all different workspaces that have utilities and actual purpose to create in the Infusion tools. You have links. So you have your modding documentations, modding forums, the BI websites, the ARMA Discord, BI Discord. You have news. You can go check all that stuff out in there. And then the most important part about this is understanding your actual resource browser here. So starting here, this is your main directory. So this is going to be for ArmaReforger. This is where all the content for the game is contained. You have a core, which is all the system dependent stuff. You have your logs, your profile, and then you have your main mod, right? So this is the project you have created, which you can see it contains an add-on, which is your just blank generic add-on for all of this to even be open in the first place. So getting started, we're going to open up the directory for ArmaReforger. So dropping this down, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff, right? And you're going to be like, okay, well, what do I do here, right? Like, where is everything contained? What am I looking at? So everything here is neatly categorized to what you're specifically looking for. So AI will correspond to the behavior trees and actual agents. Animations will be your animations, your proc animations, and your workspaces. Your assets will be stuff like data, so textures, models, whatever. See if I go down here, you can see the EMATs. We can find a model somewhere for construction, maybe a cable reel. There's a model right there. So it's all pretty simple in here. Moving up to common, this is more direct stuff like your color palettes. So there's more data stuff. Some game materials in here for surfaces. Some light stuff. We have configs here. A bunch of categorized configuration profiles for stuff like loadouts. Everything's contained within here. Let's close that down. Your language, which is all related to your string editor. Missions, these are your game scenarios, which are already preloaded into the workbench and the game. Particles, you're going to see materials in here, and you're going to see actual particle effects. So if I go here to materials, you can see the EMATs for the materials, which run under a different type. I'll explain that in a different video. We're going to go to the blast, particle grass blast big, and then you can see the particle effect played. So all that's contained in there. Back over, let me close that down. Prefab library, so like generators for your maps and stuff that you can place down, which I'll show in a bit in the next video or next few. It's wherever I decide to go over actual terrain creation. There's pretty good videos already out there for it, but I might run over and make one. Prefabs, so these are your main actual entities that are completely done up and completely usable and game ready, from the entity class to the components that are attached to them. So let's take in for consideration a LAV25. So we're going to locate vehicles, wheeled, LAV25, LAV25 base. Right, so we get our LAV here. It's pretty sweet. You get your other LV variants. So understanding base prefab. So when you are creating something in here, say it's a prefab, right? You're going to have different options like inherit, override, duplicate, whatever. I will run that over, but this is always going to be the uh, parented prefab. So this was mainly created to be the parent, and then whatever changes on this will change on its children, which is a child A, child B. So if a component changes on this, say they added a component, it will change for this, and it will change for this. It's pretty much a parent-child system for the base stuff. Like I said, I'll explain that some other time. Moving on, out of prefabs, we have prefabs editable. These are prefabs like you saw before with the LAV, but these are going to be used for game master placing. These are specifically designated for that. Some have other purposes, but the orange usually refers back to game master. So when you're creating a map or something, you're placing down these, I would avoid doing that, and I would just straight up use the blue prefabs. Moving on, we got scripts. These are all your game scripts, so like camera, your components, whatever, system stuff. That's a category I'm not exactly going to touch because that's a whole different learning field. But this really all are contained for base game. For your sounds, you're gonna have samples and your ACPs in here. So like see all the wave files. You can see, let's see. So that's the deploy. And then you have your ACPs. Let me find it. Sounds, destruction, multi-phase. Yeah. Your ACPs, and you have your signals too. That's where all those are contained. You have your terrains. So you're going to have terrain material here. So from sky to your land, your painting brush, whatever for your terrain, uh, to get different textures and stuff for your grass or whatever. They're all contained in here. They're all materials and specified different classes for the material too, in order to get certain things to work within the engine. Moving on, UI. This is all your user interface stuff, including what you're looking at now. All your UI data is contained in here. Sorry, let me just close that. So let me find a good example. You can barely see it, but it's up here, little widget in the corner. Tiny War. That's a good one. So there's a lot that goes into the widget creation for the UI. There's some scripted functions toward it too. You can create and whatnot. I'm not going to get into this as well because this is really overwhelming. Just like the script editor when you're first starting, those are two things you just don't need to worry about right at the start unless you're familiar with it from other engines or working on other stuff in previous titles. Close these down, close everything here. Right, moving on out of UI, we're going to go to worlds. So these are already your world layers and your actual terrains and your created worlds. Simple enough. Eden is ever on, just so you don't get confused. So you have Arlen and Eden. Close that out. Alright, sweet. So now you have your workbench options here. You're going to notice inside here is not going to pull up on my screen because OBS does not allow that. You're going to see save all, and options. You're going to see unlink, publish to workshop, remove from workshop, check pending invitations. Publish to workshop is where you'll be publishing your mod. Do not unlink your account. That's your actual BI account being linked to the workbench. It's something you want to avoid, and you have multiple options that are going to be in there for your disposal. You're going to have editors, instant access to the editors. You'll see the drop down bar here. You're going to have view. You're going to have your edits. You're going to have your different windows in here. So if you accidentally, like, say, deleted this window here, right, and it's gone, you're like, oh no, where did it go? And you can just click window, and then you'll see at the very bottom, it will say resource browser. Just click that back up, and then you'll see it. You get your utilities, plugins, so Pure Tools located in here too, if you know how Pure Tool works. I'll give your help. Specifically something when you're first starting too, when you go into your options in the workbench here. Go to options, you're going to go to world editor, and you're going to see undo steps. Those are the max undos you can do. So just like Blender, if you're familiar with that, you have certain undos you can do. I currently have mine set at 80. That's because I work on map stuff. Now, if you want, you can leave it as default. I don't know if default is 80 or I'm just running that as a higher amount. I've spent a long time on the workbench, and I can't remember half this stuff, but you can set it to whatever you want there. It does take up a little bit of system memory, trying to backtrace those steps of what you've done. So don't set it too high, but make sure it's within a reasonable range that you should need to delete. And that's pretty much it for the workbench interface. Be creating a video sometime soon for the world editor, and I'll be showing you guys how prefab creation works in there. Alright, till next time.